Good evening. My name's Jacob Field. Just confirming to begin with, have put a chat message on the webcast software there on the right-hand side. If you can confirm that you can see the property investment event slide and hear me correctly, that will be great. I have also just mentioned that if you are having pixelation or fuzzy screen problems, we have sort of got down to the quirks of this system, and we are sort of getting better at it. If you just try resizing the browser, bringing it in and making it slightly smaller or changing the dimensions, it usually clears up any visual problems. And if that's not working, final protocol is potentially refreshing the browser window, just reloading things and getting it reinitialized that way. So do jump into the chatting and questions if you are seeing problems there. There will be a dedicated, thanks Matt, there will be a dedicated question and answers session at the end. So any questions around Cranbourne, which is in Victoria, or other areas, or property investment, we can jump in at the end and go through them individually. I have been sticking around the last couple of weeks to do sort of one-on-one suburb requests and jumping in other areas and giving my thoughts. So if you do have any similar areas and you are thinking, are they relevant? Are they looking at the same potential upside of Cranbourne in Melbourne's southeast? Do jump in. I'm happy to let you know my thoughts and on the ground insight at the end. So you are able to chat or ask questions over in the right-hand panel on the page. Make sure you are selecting the chat or question at the time. Yeah, I'll jump right in. We did open this week up again to a vote. We're basing the 10 areas that were able to be nominated in the votes to focus on tonight from the National Top 10 Sweet Spots report, which I co-authored with Terry Ryder from hotspotting.com.au. It's actually been featured in the cover story of the September issue of Money magazine. We have worked through that report in the last couple of weeks, put it out to a vote, to see which areas you would all like to focus on. And tonight, Cranbourne has come in as the winner. We've had actually a really good response each week on the Facebook page in terms of votes, and it was actually quite close with Cranbourne, Epping, Caloundra, which is actually up in Sunshine Coast in terms of voting. Just so you know, if you did vote for Caloundra or you were sort of looking for that insight there, I did host an event going back 5 or 6 weeks. I actually had some on-the-ground insight from Loretta Morgan, Terry Ryder, talking about the area, where to focus on, did break it down in that webcast. So do jump onto the YouTube channel, search for Caloundra in Focus or the Ripe House channel or Jacob Field, all those key terms to find that, or any other webcasts we've done recently. Yeah, so as mentioned, Cranbourne is featured in that National Top 10 Sweet Spots report. We'll be jumping in and we can do an analysis a little bit later on, looking at some individual sweet spot areas using the Ripe House sweet spot methodology to find streets that are likely to perform really well for us, and then some individual properties, and we can do some appraisals of those, looking at what types of properties may be most in demand, and potentially going to amplify our capital growth and have nice, stable and high yields. So let's just jump in. I know there's quite a few familiar faces, names on the line tonight. For those of you who haven't been on there, and I've just got Scott saying sight and sound okay, and I am saying Scott because, yeah, I do repeat this, but I will go through very quickly tonight, Scott, with the little intro at the start, just because I'm really looking forward to giving you a sneak peek at the end of tonight into a platform we've been working on within Ripe House for a few months now. The ideas and problems that investors face, not just using Ripe House, but out there in the wilderness, consistently come up in working very closely with you. And it's something we finally cracked the code, we think, a few weeks ago. And what I'm really looking forward to delivering and demonstrating to you tonight is, I think, absolutely revolutionary. I cannot understate it. The platform, the build out, and what it's going to mean for you, I think it has been designed with all the questions and all the problems that you've been having in the last 6 to 12 months, working with lots of you individually, one-on-one. What are your individual pain points? What difficulty do you have in getting the deal across the line? We've looked at that, and we'll build out a platform that is addressing all of the pain points and issues that you have in purchasing property. It's basically providing an end-to-end service, research, amalgamating experts across the country. We've already built in almost 50 experts across the country in different capacities, ranging from national hotspotting experts to REI New South Wales, Tasmania, Northern Territory, Western Australia, all of the government bodies, Seek Insight, down to professors and property experts in government and education faculties, then down to individual regional level experts, buyers agents, selling agents on the ground, interviewing, documenting, bring them together in one platform where you can see the aggregate of the opinion. You can see where the overlap is, really quickly filter and nominate the experts you would like to listen to pay more attention to. Then you can drill down through a funnel to see the individual regions, suburbs, sweet spots, and then at the bottom of that funnel, we're spitting out individual properties. It's basically tying together the whole Ripe House platform and how you've used it in the past in a very streamlined mechanism, going away automatically, finding the sweet spots, finding the properties within them that are primed for the growth, most in demand, and providing them to you in one dynamic list. And then you can click on the purchase button, and then we've partnered up with partners across the country in key buying locations to be able to inspect, appraise, and then negotiate on your behalf for up to 4 properties for a price of $997 is what we're rolling out. So I'm really looking forward to taking you through the whole platform that we've developed and rolling out. It's enabling you to not just leverage the Ripe House research, sweet spots and search algorithms, but leveraging expert opinion and aggregating that and seeing the overlap, and then helping you actually buy in these remote and unfamiliar locations by choosing and working with buying partners who are doing the on-the-ground stuff, bringing it back to you to make the key decisions, and then negotiate on your behalf. And all the way along, you're supported by Ripe House, and we've built out our internal team here to really work with you very closely in that whole process. So I can't wait to demonstrate it. I'd love to start hearing some feedback, and if you think it sounds like something you look forward to looking at and potentially can see the benefit, I'd love to hear feedback in chat anywhere along. It is something that I am going to be contacting current users in the next couple of days and offering it to you as a beta service, and we're literally days away from knocking it on its head and having it ready to roll out as an end-to-end platform for you to use. So stay tuned around to the end of that. I will go through Cranbourne using the existing software and what you're used to, breaking it down with me by your side, and the platform will be sort of featured and demonstrated at the end. So a little bit about me. I've been investing for over 10 years. Since I was 19, down here in Tassie is where I started. I've recently moved back after living in Sydney for about 5 years. I describe myself as a DIY property investor, so I'm all about helping and empowering myself to make decisions, learning from those decisions, moving forward, and getting myself closer to what I'm trying to achieve in property. In doing that, Ripe House has been formed based on helping me solve the problems that I was hoping to solve in learning how to invest in Sydney once I first moved there in the western suburbs, which were very foreign to me. Then building out the platform and working with other investors, and then loving working and helping other investors with the Ripe House platform. So that's a little bit about me. Ripe House has been around since 2011, and we're constantly trying and listening and working with individual investors to help you and cut through a lot of the mistruth and muddied waters that are out there in different ways to try and make nice, clear, effective decisions in property. So jumping right in, I did just mention that those 133 streets there on the cover of September Money magazine are pulled directly out of the National Top 10 Sweet Spots report that I co-authored with Terry Ryder at hotspotting.com.au. So definitely check out hotspotting.com.au for some amazing insight into suburb level due diligence, the reasons why areas may be primed to go ahead at a government and infrastructure and spend, population and employment perspective. The report then does go into using the Ripe House sweet spot algorithms to find the streets that are prime for that growth. We did actually recently show in our research that Ripe House sweet spots, which I can define in a moment, generate and perform over 21% higher in terms of capital growth in the last 3 months to September compared to non-sweet spot streets. It's usually 15 to 20% of each suburb is a sweet spot in terms of our algorithms, and outside of that is defined as not. And if you were investing in those sweet spots across the whole country, by average, you would have achieved 21.9% more capital growth in relative terms above and beyond the norm. As I did mention, I have sort of covered across the idea of what I'm looking forward to taking you through at the end of the webcast. I do really feel it's the future of property investment. It's leveraging and aggregating expert opinion, cutting through the bias and the context to give you layers and collation of that expert opinion. Where there is overlap, there's a lot of power and a lot of insight to be gained. Cutting through that with some smarts, with our big data approach to solving property investment and problems that you might have in making the key decisions in markets you might not be familiar with, and then providing services on the ground across the country to actually facilitate the purchase at a price that I think is basically revolutionary in comparison to comparative services at under $1,000. I think is going to really change the way people can access property and purchase across the country. So I look forward to taking you through that a little bit later on. A lot of the content tonight is based around the infographic series that we have been posting on the Ripe House blog in the last month or so. So check out ripehouse.com.au/blog. In this series of 3 infographics, the 4th one is coming. We do cover off a lot of the myths around capital growth. So looking, things like who are we listening to for their opinion? What are their motives? How to assess those motives and how to interpret what they're saying based on those motives. It's really important. Also, and another big one is the myth of capital growth, looking at past performance as an indicator of potential for future performance. And the relationship between the two is sometimes there's no relationship or an inverse relationship or no defined correlation. So it just sort of helps you think about looking for causes, which might be infrastructure, population, employment, then looking at the effect of those causes on demand in a suburb, and then potentially looking at when those demand and effects are starting to demonstrate buy signals, and looking for those buy signals and then potentially buying in a place or area before it has started to move. That's all covered in infographic 1. Infographic 2 introduces the concept of not all streets are created equal. Some streets in a suburb are primed to amplify capital growth for the suburb overall or drive the suburb forward. It might be where all the population, employment, demand, new people moving to the suburb are focused on these particular key streets, driving up rental demand, rent yield, and values associated with that. So number 2 in the infographic series does go into a lot of detail about street level analysis, and number 3 is all about the property. So how to appraise property, how to interpret condition of property, how to find valid comparables, and then how to compare apples with apples to determine appraised value, and then how you can leverage these things to potentially buy below market value. So check out those infographics. I usually go into some more detail about a particular element in a webcast. I'm not going to this evening. I'm going to jump straight through into the meat. This was just a bit of a heads up around just getting you to think about what changes at a street level within a suburb. A couple of the key things, key amenities in a suburb very quickly that do have a dramatic effect on demand and appraised value are transport, shopping and schools. Ripe House is all about data, property data, location of all things that potentially can affect data. According to our research, transport has a very positive correlation to value when you're pretty close to it, or around that 1,100 metres sweet spot. Schools, 250 metres is a real sweet spot in terms of distance to schools, and shopping anywhere up until around 1,200 metres is okay. Big sort of asterisks there. Anything after 1,500 metres is a bit of a downer in most cases. Public housing is another big one. So we demonstrate and give you public housing percentages for every street across the country. We've been updating that data every 6 months since 2011 to make sure it is vetted, and when it was based in ABS data in 2011 to make sure it's current and vetted. Our research has demonstrated that you're expected to pay and expect to pay more than 25% more than the suburb average when there is 0% public housing in the street in question. And when you see 18% or more public housing in the street that you're looking at, expect to pay almost 20% less than the suburb average. So massive effect on appraised value for property based on the level of public housing in a street. Higher levels of public housing we've seen in my experience adds high volatility to an investment. So you may be left with a property that doesn't increase in capital growth in line with the suburb overall, or the suburb from a very low base is actually gentrifying and improving faster than the suburb overall. It's just adding volatility and risk to an investment. You might be left with higher vacancy rates, lower ability to index rents in line with inflation or the suburb overall. These are all risks that are sort of added with high public housing. So just something to be aware of. In terms of the Ripe House sweet spot, so what we look for, we look for low public housing in the street, lots of the in-demand property types. So if new tenants, new population demand, new employment demand, if people looking and moving towards a suburb are demanding a particular property type, we want to invest in a street that has lots of that property type. It's the in-demand property type of that street, the commoditised type of property. When you combine it with these three things in the blue square there, in terms of tenant dynamics, it's very, very powerful. And you don't see it very often. Generally, high rented streets, high rent per week streets are not accompanied by high yields and high levels of tenants. They don't usually go together, but when you find them together, it's very, very powerful. And it's basically telling you that lots of tenants are paying above average rent to live in the street for a normal type of property because the yields are low. So if high rents are accompanied with low yields, it would signify probably premium street in the suburb. But when you see high rents, high levels of tenants, and high yields together, it's a very, very powerful combination. It demonstrates that potentially is the street that lots of upwards pressure and demand is being placed by tenants to live there. That's going to then attract investor interest and lots of other owner occupiers, because it's probably most likely the best amenity or has the most amenity for the suburb overall. So we look at these things to define the Ripe House sweet spot. And then, as mentioned, when you do find these sweet spots in a suburb, we have demonstrated across the 3 months through September, for every property sale across the country, we amalgamate that data, we bring it together, we've basically put every property sale into a sweet spot or out of it, and if you had invested in a sweet spot in that period, just in those 3 months, you would have actually had over 21.9% capital growth more than if you had invested outside of that. So when I say that's relative terms, I think in those 3 months across the whole country, there was a little bit over 3% capital growth nationally. The sweet spot capital growth for the same period was pushing 4%. So you're basically giving yourself a 1% increase in your investment in 3 months if you had invested in a sweet spot versus not, in simple terms. Moving right ahead, this is probably a slide I usually spend a little bit more time on. It's about making sure as a DIY property investor, we're empowering ourselves with knowledge, but we're applying that knowledge very quickly to be able to make key decisions quickly. We want to be investing in suburbs right across the country that are going to give us awesome capital growth potential. They are literally boom locations. How can we buy in these fast-moving locations with a professional's mindset and then still maintain a due diligence process that's efficient? You know, we're not spending all day, all night, then getting analysis paralysis in making these decisions. We're making use of the right tools at the right time to make these key decisions. And this is opening it up. So we're giving, you know, we're not making a black box in this scientific journey that only we have the key for, and you've got to, you know, come through education program, and then, you know, there's another you know, hoop you've got to jump through, and then another fee and another service. We open up the black box, and at every level along the way, you can jump in and see the metrics, see the numbers, see the tools and the logic and research. And we believe in aggregating and opening up expert opinion and comparing it like for like together and making them accountable, the experts accountable for what they're saying, and then tracking the success of their opinion and bringing it back and relating it against each other. That's what it's all about, and that's what we've sort of got to do with critical thinking and analysis in anything we do, I suppose, but bring it back to property investment and helping us make these key decisions. Let's just jump in now and let's have a look at Cranbourne. I'm not overly familiar personally with the suburb. I've driven through Frankston personally and driven the streets there. Cranbourne is not something I'm overly familiar with. I have had a few of you ask in recent weeks since the report has been released which area of Cranbourne. Let's just jump in now to the Ripe House search and analysis tools, and we can go through things there, and I'll give you my thoughts. So I'm just switching over screens. Bear with me a moment when I do that. Excuse me. Okay, so you should be seeing through now the suburb map analysis page within Ripe House. Let me know if that's not coming through in the next few seconds. Something's gone wrong. What we've got here in front of us, we've got Cranbourne loaded by default. You can see the suburb border there. You can see red icons on the map. Excuse me there. Each red icon on the map is a current on-market for sale property. We source these properties and aggregate them across the internet to save you time in your search. The darker the red, the higher the purchase price or asking price for the property. We also have for rent and sold properties, which you can view on the suburb map there very dynamically and very quickly. So what it's all about, this page is about becoming a local area expert for these suburbs that you might not be familiar with. Cranbourne is one that we have featured in the national top 10 sweet spot. It's literally up there right at the moment with in the top 20 for, in my opinion, and Terry Ryder's opinion from hotspotting.com.au, for its capital growth potential. Terry's seeing the transport in the train line as a key driver of this growth because that opens up the CBDs and commuter line. So I'll sort of be talking, if that's the hub and driver of growth, then employment, the train line opens up. Let's not go too far away from there. Let's be in that sort of 1 to 1.5k band for transport, making sure we've got shopping amenities which are usually close by to the train line, train station anyway, close by, making sure there's key school amenities close by. This page helps you become a local area expert. So those 5 metrics that I did take you through, you can actually see exactly where high and low values for those things are located in the suburb. So one, for example, is public housing. We can click the toggle over here on the left. See very quickly the dark red area here has the highest public housing in the suburb. So 35% public housing, 5% average public housing in Cranbourne. The darker the red, the higher the public housing. You can click on any of these areas, hover over, and then click to view the individual metrics. So 13% public housing. Some of these areas down in the south here are 4%. You know, it's a sliding scale. At a 373 suburb median asking price at the moment, which is down here in the bottom left. You know, it's a low socioeconomic area in the grand scheme of things, especially in context of Melbourne. You're going to have to wear some public housing generally in these suburbs. We draw a line in the sand, and this is sort of the over-under, where you start seeing dramatic and evident effects of public housing in the street in these types of suburbs at 15%. Obviously, that's very subjective. We have drawn that line in the sand and demonstrated the capital growth effect going in retrospect using our data set, but 15% is our tolerance for these types of suburbs. After that, this very dark red area, 35% public housing, you're going to see a dramatic enclave of low, negative factors on property. You know, all the things you see with burnouts on the street and no front fences, boarded up windows, graffiti on walls, you know, on the best brick walls. This is going to start becoming the norm in these streets. Very evident. It's going to drag down your ability to increase rents and potentially find tenants going forward, and capital growth may be stunted. So these are all things, the Ripe House tools are all about street level analysis and then filtering properties in and out of the key streets. So occupancy type's another one. Darker the yellow, the more tenants. Darker the green, the more owner-occupiers. We like to look at the meat in the middle, where there's still 30% of owner-occupiers who are going to improve the street appeal of their property and improve the street appeal of the street overall. But we want the big chunk of at least 30% tenants. So between 30 and 70% tenants is the real sweet spot in terms of occupancy. Property type. Let's focus on, there's only 15% units overall in the suburb. Let's focus on the areas that have predominantly houses. In this case, it's the green areas. Rent, darker the purple, higher the rent. Yield, darker the yellow, higher the yield. So you can see exactly, probably a bit of a correlation between northern Cranbourne and higher yields and southern Cranbourne, lower yields, which is in the owner-occupier clusters, which may be the larger, newer types of properties, lower yields, high purchase price, higher levels of owner-occupiers. You can see exactly where key amenities are in the suburb. Investment hotspots, which basically means the blue areas is the peak in terms of price. The green areas are the valleys in terms of price. So you don't want to overpay or even pay suburb median type prices for the green and dark green areas, which are generally lower priced areas in the suburb. So you're looking at the price terrain there very quickly. Lots of other toggles and things you can switch onto the map for every suburb across Australia. You can compare this suburb across against its closest 10 neighbours. You can view a detailed suburb level report to view all the KPIs that you need to make the critical decisions. Average for sale, sold, for rent prices, the trends of that data, days on market, volumes, vacancies, yields, exactly where everything is located. You can also see the most in-demand property type is currently 3-bedroom houses, so it's worth sticking to the norm. What people are currently demanding most are 3-bedroom houses, so let's focus on that. This is all a lot to keep track of. Our first problem is, this is all broken down very simply for you to click on the sweet spots toggle, and here we actually automatically we go off and find the defined Ripe House sweet spots. We can adjust that manually if we need to. I'll do that right now. When I click on that toggle, it's going to bring up a pop-up. Each of these horizontal tolerances adjusts one of the key metrics we look at a street level. The more you close these tolerances, the less street areas are passing muster for your tolerances. If I'm bringing, obviously, public housing right down to 1%, there's only going to be 1/4 of the suburb that's selected. Open public housing right out, and obviously the whole suburb is selected. Each of these are the metrics we related back to in that slide, talking about the 5 key metrics that relate to a Ripe House sweet spot. And you can actually click on the capital gains badge up here. As soon as you click on that, it will automatically, like that, adjust the tolerances for each of the key metrics against our recommendation for the Ripe House sweet spot. And you can see very quickly that once it passes through the net here, horizontally down to the bottom, that there's 3 areas that have passed the tests on each of these metrics. You can open these out and you might see more areas come into the mix. That wasn't a good example. But then you can, as I say, if you wanted to wear more public housing, you might find that drops in more street level areas. You want to allow less tenants, it's going to dramatically, this is the breaking point here, it's going to dramatically open up the areas selected. In this case, the default sweet spot strategy within Ripe House is going to select 3 key street locations within the suburb. And these are these 3 here. They are focused very close around the public transport hub, so transport trains. That's where people are most likely to be demanding to live at the moment and driving up rents, yields, and then on the back of that, capital growth and actual sale prices. So that's the logic and the theory. Let's just focus on the properties currently for sale in these areas, so we don't have to get our pen and paper out and click on the icons in and out. We can literally just click on filter, filter properties into the custom strategy areas. We want to focus on 3-bedroom houses. I always chuck 4 bedrooms in as well. Lots of reasons there. I probably wouldn't pay more for a 4-bedroom, but I'm not going to rule it out if it's a similar price. And houses were the most common property type in the suburb. So let's make sure we're focusing on those. Where there is a townhouse, and there may be new townhouse developments going in through the train line, they are classed in this case as houses as well. So there may be a couple of townhouses returned in the mix. If we zoom in here and we view those properties, we've got 5 icons left on the map. Sorry, there may actually be 2 on the same street address, which is constituting 6. One of them's under contract, one of them's at 625, one of them's at 580, one of them's at 335, one's at 250 and 295. So I think these two top ones are townhouses, all conjoined. So it's one and with one on the back by the looks of it. So it is a house, but it's got one on the back. So lot 1 of 109. That may be what you're looking for, but it is. I'm basically trying to highlight the fact that it is differentiated from an actual house, which is the in-demand property type. 335 is coming up as 5 Sharp Street, 9 days on market, 3 beds, 2 baths, 2 cars. Whenever a property's been discounted, you can see how many days it's been on market, and you can also see how much it's been discounted. There will be a little green sign next to it. In these places, so Cranbourne, somewhere that's literally a hotspot across the whole country, a lot of demand, you're probably just not going to start seeing much discounting going on once days on market are dropped through the floor. To be one of these growth areas, sales volume generally been trending upwards recently, days on market generally trending downwards. It's demonstrating that the suburbs at 7 or 8 o'clock on the property clock, you will start seeing days on market bottoming out. The lower days on market in a suburb, the less discounting you'll generally see. You may actually see some increases by averaging price from the original listing price to the sale price. Yeah, so in that case, that would sort of justify why there hasn't been much discounting as seen. Look, there is a bit of logic. I'm sort of coming into this with most investors in mind. So if you really were trying to buy off the plan or knew nothing to do, depreciate, start at the higher price points, you can see that the suburb median's 335, mid threes. So I'm sort of starting looking at properties at that suburb median or below, and that's why I'm sort of drawn to this 335 first. That's my logic. Just clicking on that one again. If your strategy is to come in and do the 10K reno, reface kitchen, floating floorboards, paint whites, retile or freshen bathroom, increase appraised value based on that cosmetic reno. This property sort of jumping out at me very quickly is suited to that. It does seem relatively tidy. I'm trying to gauge at the moment the condition of the property, because it's really important to gauge the condition of the property to potentially go away and find other comparables that are similar, and then we're going to be able to actually gauge the appraised value of property far more accurately. So this could be a whole other webcast in itself. I don't think it's generally enough to go and get your printed off, automated valuation report and use it as gospel. We all know there's usually a huge range in the appraised values of those properties. Ripehouse, we've been developing and working on an algorithm that will try and put a property into one of 3 buckets. So unrenovated or poor condition, average condition, or good or off the plan condition. And then it will go away and find comparables that are going to be more likely to be in a similar condition to the property in question. Obviously, it gets it wrong sometimes. Computers are not perfect, but it's learning. And every time a user actually jumps in and overrides an appraisal for a property, it actually learns and gets better for that suburb and for that type of property and the way that the agent is speaking of it. And it's getting better all the time and more accurate. Basically, what that's going to do, we're building this out. So we've actually got partners on the ground in all of these key locations. We've already worked these relationships where they're going out and doing our appraisals, and our data set is getting more complete. So as properties are sold through the platform in these key locations, we're getting very complete data of on-the-ground physical appraisals of these properties. That's more on that to come. Let's jump in. So look, just really quickly, I'm looking at street appeal, neutrality of floor coverings and presentation. It's obviously reasonably tidy but very dated. I am remembering and reminding myself of Cranbourne, low socioeconomic. It's potentially pretty average, or probably on the poor side, but in context with the suburb overall, I'm probably going to gauge it as average condition, making sure our condition assessment is relative to the suburb overall. Our algorithms do relate it back to the suburb. Sometimes it gets it wrong. So in this case, it has been thrown off a little bit. It has assessed it as good condition. I would override that and assess it as average. So this is going to learn from that, and it's going to probably get better next time in its assessment. Listings were listed on the 15th of September for 335. You can see your suburb level KPIs. So we've had 1% growth in the previous quarter. we can see all those KPIs there. We can see our street level KPIs. That's the sweet spot analysis that we've already done. That's just vetting that. Then it's going to go away and it's going to find all comparables, but then it's going to order them and give you back the top 6 most likely comparables. These are going to be in order of most recency of sale. Anything over 6 months is very heavily discounted as comparable, and then likely to be in a similar condition. So some of these has come back as lots with no images available. So these are actually vacant land sales. I'm going to remove those just very quickly and neutralize things that way. I've now, you can take the time to view the images of each individual property. Yes, this does look to be in slightly better condition. Sold on 30th of July. There might be some here. So this is a very similar property at 305. This one here at 370 is superior. I'm looking and seeing that there is a bit of variance. Obviously, 440 is vastly superior. 275 seems to be very original condition. Inferior potentially. So I'm getting an average or aggregate of the top 5. This is something I recommend owning in the process and doing quite specifically using the Right House platform. If you do find a property that is superior, look out for it, because the agent's probably using it as a comparable to justify their asking price. So you can question them and call them out on that and get them to retract it, trying to get them to prime the conversation to your advantage when talking with a vendor. This is something that is now going to be provided as part of the Right House service, vetting and appraising properties, inspecting them on your behalf, and then providing a validated and physical appraisal of the property. Jumping straight forward, so with these top 5 comparables, average is taken, brought across to the appraisal tab. We then go through and apply a series of adjustments to the property. Is it a little bit too far away from the closest school? Really nice amenity to local transport. Not too much public housing, which is quite good for the suburb overall. Based on our 5 comparables and aggregated, and then our location-based adjustments, the final appraisal has come back at 330 for the property, 330,000. Asking price 335. Estimated rent $300 per week. Estimated yield 4.7. You can be very sure there's a lot of very robust mechanism going into this final appraised value. Keep an eye on that. That final appraised value is actually going to be injected into our new platform in automated fashion, and it's going to be scaled across every property that's currently on the market. So you can quickly see which properties are currently underwater in terms of appraised value below asking price, which properties are standout as value propositions. All of this can be printed off in a report and taken with you to an open home or used on the phone when talking with the agent. So that's Cranbourne. Definitely stick around towards the end and ask any questions as you see fit. And I'm on hand to go down the one-to-one level with you. Let me now jump into the new platform. So a couple of things here. Generally, the way it works is you'll click on Add to My Suburbs. That will go into your My Suburbs list there. You can save your sweet spots. You can save your filters. It will automatically do, or when you load the suburb up, it will apply those. And you're having to monitor those suburbs one at a time on a day-by-day basis. We're trying to take that into an automated fashion. So you've got not just your suburbs that you want to focus on in your shortlist, but other experts that you listen to and respect, combining their opinions together to form a shortlist of suburbs, and then automatically finding the sweet spots and tracking on-market property in those sweet spots and providing those to you in a very dynamic and accurate list. That's the new platform. This is the root of it. This is the page where the magic happens. It's divided into rows. So the first row is all about nominating what your preferred strategy is: capital growth, flipping, or cash flow. That will then filter the recommended experts that are most relevant to your strategy. If an expert offers and he specialises in providing suburbs relevant to flipping, they will obviously be higher priority and weightage to if you nominate flipping. Condition is all about nominating what type of property you're actually trying to target. So are you targeting your renovators to light property where you can actually build and add value, or are you targeting a fully renovated or off the plan property that you can potentially depreciate? What's your comfort level there? That will then go away. It will look at keywords used in properties. It will look at average, when you nominate your maximum budget, it will extrapolate your maximum budget and likely and target condition to work out suburbs that are going to be in your price range. I've probably made a mess of explaining that, but if your maximum budget's 500 and you're looking to buy properties in poor condition, you might be able to look at suburbs where the median price is 600 or 700 as an example. That's how we're building the smarts into the suburbs that we recommend. And then overlaying that with the areas that the experts are recommending. Property type is one where if you're really specifically looking and focusing on buying a unit to perform against your strategy or your portfolio, you can nominate that, and it will only recommend suburbs where units are most in demand and where they are in demand in sweet spots, and it will then once again overlay experts that are providing opinion based on that property type. You can set the minimum yield for your requirement, and you can set the catchment area. So you can nominate suburbs or local government areas you'd really like to focus on. In this particular example, I'll just go really quickly and demonstrate. If we click all of Australia, the second row is then launched in, and you can quickly see we've got a stable of almost 50 researchers, buyers, agent professionals in the industry providing recommendations for suburbs that they are interested in. They are seeing as higher capital growth potential. We've documented their catchment area, their level of expertise. So certain buyers agents in certain areas are only qualified to comment on their area of focus. Other researchers like Malcolm Gunning here is the Real Estate Institute of New South Wales. He's qualified in our platform to comment across the whole of New South Wales. Peter Klouzos is South Australia. Myself is specialised at a macro level across the whole country. So we're looking at different levels of experts, looking at where their area of expertise is and allowing them to comment on those areas of expertise. This is where the real power is in this platform. So if I reset this and I select New South Wales as an example, proceed, and then approve that, it's going to go away and it's going to find experts qualified to speak in terms of New South Wales only. I'll select myself as a national expert there. You can approve that as all suburb New South Wales level experts. It's going to go away. The platform knows the areas that these experts have recommended. The real power in this is crowdsourcing opinion. So when you're seeing overlap, and lots of overlap between experts recommending certain local government areas, there's something to be said about that. You know, it's not one independent expert. There's a movement of expert opinion towards a certain area. In this case, very strong movement. You know, you've got the Real Estate Institute of New South Wales. You've got myself in the top 10 sweet spot report. You've got local area buyers agents across the South New South Wales and Sydney, all recommending Wollongong, New South Wales. You've got 4 upvotes on that. You've got North Sydney. You've got buyers agents from Inner West, Northern Beaches and Eastern Suburbs all recommending the North Sydney local government area. A lot of overlap there, a lot to be said. That's the real power here, because you might not choose to listen to the areas that only one expert is recommending. You're choosing to listen to the areas where lots of experts are recommending. Once you've actually selected those individual local government areas, it will then drill down. It will go away and find, I won't click on that button there. It will go away and find, I'll use Queensland as an example here just because it's a little bit more quick in the search. It will go away and find, so in this case I've selected Queensland. I've got Loretta Morgan as a local area expert. Drill down, she's talking about the virtues and recommending the virtues of Sunshine Coast. Myself and Terry White are also talking about the virtues of the Sunshine Coast. You then click on that at a local government area. It will go away. It will find the specific suburbs that she recommends. It will also overlay that with the Ripe House big data approach. So it will go away and find suburbs in that local government area that are absolutely primed to perform and drive growth forward. Primed at that 7 and 8 o'clock on the property clock, sales volumes increasing, lots of tenant demand, number of sweet spots in the suburb, and individual suburbs that are really leveraged to perform in terms of that local government area. So at this 4th level, we're looking at suburbs not just recommended by the experts, but also primed with a numbers-based approach, which is a traditional approach within Ripe House, to also perform very highly. You can quickly see the overlap there once again with the experts. You can also hover to see the reasons why these experts are actually recommending the areas. You can see quickly the number of sweet spots, and you can click onto each of these suburbs and go straight into the Ripe House map pages to work out the individual metrics. You can actually also go in and then override the sweet spots with your own custom settings. That will then be back injected into here for next time and for now. So it will update the level of sweet spots if you want to override that. I will just say we're very close to launching this. It is coming out in the next couple of days. Our final, well, you know, that we've built out the functionality. Our final areas of development now are around improving efficiency. So if I click on the approve button now, it will then go away and find individual properties most in demand in the individual sweet spots for the suburbs that we select here. It will then bring them back in a list, and that's going to take about a minute to do that. So I've prepared this earlier. I've clicked on this approve button here. It's gone away and had a bit of a think and injected property after property after property into the list here for us. What it's done, it's ordered them in order of appraised value above listing price. So where the appraised value using our automated system has come in above listing price, we order that first. Right down the other end are properties that are actually priced and appraised lower than their asking price. You can see a lot of quick look information. So you can see lot size, and you can also filter properties based on lot size. You can see bedrooms, baths, car spaces. You can view all images. You can view the recommended condition assessment for the property. You can view estimated rent, estimated yield, and once again, appraised value. What you can also do is you can also click on the property. You can go into the traditional pop-up. You can gauge condition. You can override that. And as soon as you override it and perform the appraisal, it will bring in that appraised value back in here and update it and reorder the properties. You can filter properties in the traditional sense and just be given a subset. You can then click on a property and you can track that, and then you can be updated and notified via email when there are discounting, price revisions, the property's sold, or new properties like it have been brought onto the market. And then this is the purchase button. So once you've gone down through this whole funnel, you've been presented with a list, a short list of properties that are really suited to the experts, or to start with your strategy, your experts you'd like to listen to, the local government areas, the suburbs, the sweet spots, and then the properties. You've got a very small list there which are very specific to your needs and are going to deliver the upside that you are looking for. You can then click on the purchase button. And as mentioned, we've built out key partnerships in these key locations across the country which will facilitate the inspection, appraisal, and then negotiation for this property that you click on purchase. Once you click on purchase, you can nominate 3 other properties that you'd also like this to be performed on as part of your buying process. So for a price of $997 is what we're putting to you into market. For $997, you can click on purchase. You'll have up to 4 property inspections, appraisals, and then negotiations until you purchase. So we're on the ground working with you as buyers advocates to get this over the line. So we've got all through the whole funnel here, a lot of smarts at every lane to get you to a short list of properties that are going to really work for you. We're on then hand to work to actually purchase a property. A lot of Ripe House users at the moment are investing across the whole country, and this is something that really becomes a hurdle, and we get you over the line, but this is going to help that process immensely. So look out for this. This is now going to be rolled out shortly to current Ripe House subscribers as a platform. If you'd like sneak peek access, so I can see quite a few of you on the line are current Ripe House users, let me know via email. So contact me directly on jacob.field@ripehouse.com.au to say, yes, I'd love to be rolled out first as part of the trial beta group, which is going to happen in the next couple of days. This is all live at the moment, but yeah, to access it against your account, let me know and just ask. And then this is going to be rolled out in the wilderness in the next week or so. So look out for it. I'd love to hear your feedback. If you've got any thoughts, any questions, please let me know and get in touch. We're always trying to listen to you and develop tools to help and assist you in any way that we can. So if we can refine and improve things, please let us know. What I've done is I've switched over back to the Ripe House slides. Let me know when that comes through and you can see it. I will just skip forward now. This is the slide I was going to introduce. The platform, we are building this out. We're covering across all experts who we gauge as reliable sources of information. So we are looking at their source of opinion and context and motive for providing their opinion and making sure it is pure. We are enabling you to recommend an expert that you'd like to see on the list and inject it that way, and we are able to disclose decisions, etc., where we potentially don't believe an expert is all they may seem, if that makes sense. So it's all about opening it up and providing a platform that is viewable, visible, and accountable in what we're doing. Just a little bit about other people and other users of Ripehouse. So Ripehouse is a preferred research and investment tool by industry professionals, researchers, educators, buyers agents, and investors alike. This is some kind words that have been put together by Terry Ryder and Jane Slack-Smith, Dave Ward from Stepping Stone Property Buyers Agency, and Guy Williams, who's an experienced investor. A lot of feedback, and there's a lot of varied users with Ripehouse. So we have been a choice of a lot of buyers agents across the country as a research tool going back a number of years. A lot of investors using our tool to purchase their next property and to take their property portfolio to the next level. Guy's someone who's come on board. He's been investing for 20 years and bought 3 properties, I think, through the platform in the last few months across the whole country. First property was Logan, second property Salisbury and Goulburn or Ballarat, I think, from memory. I'll have to touch base with Guy there again. A lot of kind words said by people who are finding Ripehouse beneficial. Ripehouse is a subscription service, so $7.97 per annum is the price that the subscription is for our community. For coming online and taking the time with us tonight, I'd love to extend the discount to you for this evening only. $100 discount, bringing the annual price down to $697. So that's a little thank you for taking the time and looking through Cranbourne with us. And this is available till midnight tonight. And also included in this annual subscription price only is one-on-one in coaching with myself. So I'll jump on Skype with you and have a chat about what you're trying to do, which areas I'm seeing, and we'll use the tools together to drill down into the sweet spots and the suburbs. That's included in this discounted price for you guys who have taken the time out tonight to join me, and that's only available till midnight. Jump in, so you can actually lock this price in via www.ripehouse.com.au/bonus. I will be emailing out to you those who attended the offer as well via email, but you can jump onto that URL there. I will just turn on, you can actually click over, I'm just going to turn this off on the right-hand side, excuse me. You can actually click within the screen there, the subscribe to Ripehouse button, which is the orange button over on the side, and that will take you straight into the Meet Ripehouse page where you can nominate the annual discount amount and jump straight in that way. That's the Meet Ripehouse page, which is also that bonus page there. So look, this has all been derived from the National Top 10 Sweet Spots report. So this is, as mentioned, co-authored with Terry from hotspotting.com.au, as featured on the cover story of September issue of Money Magazine. Also included with any Ripehouse subscription as part of the discount tonight is a free copy of that report. So on the shelves for $154, that's in line with the normal advanced reports from Terry Ryder, and that's the general list price. But I'm happy to include that tonight with the special offer. Just that URL again, www.ripehouse.com.au/bonus. I might just put the line on pause, on mute, sorry, not on pause. Bring the questions, keep them coming through. Any sort of particular focus on Cranbourne, other areas within the report, any particular parts of the software, or my thoughts on my investment journey or how it might be applicable to you, jump right in. I'll put the mute button on for a few minutes and let the questions pile up. So jump in now, and then I'll come back to you with some time, and I can do some one-on-one analysis with you, etc. Yeah, don't if you'd like to get going. I really do appreciate your time tonight. I have been able to manage and keep it to an hour, which is something that doesn't happen very often, so that's great. Yeah, if you don't want to stick around for the questions, I really take the opportunity to thank you for spending the time to come and join us. But if you want to stick around, I'll be back in a moment or two. Okay, I'll just jump back in now. I'm going to share my screen again, so I just might be all over the shop here. I probably should have done this before I turned the mic back on. Couple of questions coming through. So first one from Robert. I might just hold on to that one. Talking about Cranbourne and other areas of Cranbourne and the reasons why it's looking positive. Steph is also talking about Melbourne generally. How Melbourne is placed and are there other areas, so how Melbourne is placed and what other areas that I would look at. To answer that question, I'm just trying to, share my screen. Where am I here? Okay, excuse me. Okay, so speaking of Cranbourne generally, I might answer both questions at once. It is really targeted to the train line. You've got a lot of new building and a lot of infrastructure, a lot of subdivision and new builds going on. Generally in these type of areas, they may be limited and mainly biased towards owner-occupiers, may not present great opportunity to drive and index rents up higher. So my one caveat in looking at surrounding areas, don't go too far because a lot of the growth drivers are linked to the train line to CBD Sydney, Melbourne. And as soon as you start going too far from that, you're going into owner-occupier territory. So remember that the right power sweet spot looks at that 30 to 70% meet in the middle. If a suburb overall, as Cranbourne is here, has 26.7% tenants, which is great, it's higher than average. The state average is 26.5% tenants. This is going to give you a lot of streets that have between 30 and 70% tenants, but You jump out into the other surrounding areas, Cranbourne West as an example, you might start seeing 10, 15, 20% tenants only. It's going to dramatically limit the levels of streets that have between 30 and 70%, which are the sweet spots. So that's what you sort of see when you start moving a little bit away. So I've been proved a lie here. You've got slightly less tenants over here in Cranbourne West. That's my one caveat. Do just double check that if you are moving to the neighbouring suburb, that you don't have that large drop in owner-occupier levels. As Cranbourne is one of these areas that it's quite geographically distant to the CBD. A lot of people living there will be commuting into Dandenong, into Frankston, but then some will be going further afield into Melbourne CBD, etc. Yeah, so the tenant demand and growth is centred around that transport infrastructure. Also featured in the top 10, so this is answering the question around Melbourne generally. You know, depending on who you talk to, I suppose the premium and eastern suburbs have done their dash. They're, you know, quite through the growth part and recovery part of the cycle potentially. I'm also featured in the National Top 10 Sweet Spots report was Epping. Terry did give me the brief of the Epping area, which includes up to Cranbourne, excuse my pronunciation, and over to Epping. Epping did stand out because although it has a lot of new builds, you've got a high number of tenants or lots of tenant demand, high rent, high yields, focused in and around the train station, out to the Westfield area. Do look out for areas of public housing though in Epping. So that's another precinct to look out for of growth. Probably going back another level, the whole northern corridor in Melbourne is a big tick and highlighted by the Victorian government as a growth corridor. As soon as that happens, you know, I just sold our house, principal place of residence in Lane Cove 18 months ago because as a house, owner-occupier enclave, it had been given the big tick by the New South Wales government to be developed. You get medium density approvals coming through suburbs, you get lots of unit development, etc. That's happening in the northern corridor. Closer in, that's having a dramatic effect. Further out, it's still townhouse and house builds. But when that happens, that's a focus of growth, economic employment, population growth for the government. That's obviously got generally a flow-on effect with private and public spends. So that's what's happening. That's the flow outlook. I might just pick up the next question via email there around flipping. So even with a flipping strategy, pure flipping strategy, you're selling in short term, you're not too worried about capital growth, etc. But if you've got a bit of a hybrid strategy where you do want to sort of cover all bases, and if you do have to hold the property, you do want to have reasonable capital growth fundamentals. I did actually have a webcast about 8 weeks ago with Jane Slack-Smith. You did mention Jane there in the email, Monique. We did work through this whole concept where you further you go into Preston and Reservoir, you've got higher price points, higher density of property. You're starting to come into flipping territory whilst still leveraging the demand that's been created by the Northern Quadrant government policy. So that's an area to look for in Melbourne. Follow the Preston line or Preston line out to Epping, and then all the price points in between and what that means to demand and types of property in vogue. Having said that, look, from what I'm seeing, and I think a real underrated area within Melbourne or Melbourne area at the moment is Geelong, for the same reasons as Wollongong in New South Wales as a satellite city to Sydney. It's been unloved, and it's been, you've had a lot of growth in Sydney. For similar reasons, Melbourne, that's now hit a price point that is now making people look to the Cranbournes and Eppings and also into Geelongs as well. So featured also in the National Top 10 report is Geelong. I could have thrown a dart at which areas to focus on. Terry gives me the brief around let's focus on Geelong as a growth area overall. I then jump in, look at suburbs, street and properties. There is a number, so maybe grab me in the one-on-ones to discuss. Newtown was one that I selected based on its amenity to CBD, shopping, schools, transport, but also some really nice, clear, sweet spots. So it's generally home in Newtown to premium property at that $450 price point, which is higher than a lot of areas in Geelong overall. It does have a lot of schools, interestingly enough. No real shopping districts, so go down to the bordering on the Barwon River for shopping. But Newtown is one that really stands out for me at a higher price point in Geelong. You do also have medium and lower price points and other suburbs that are equally applicable in that decision-making process for Geelong as well. But that's probably my underrated freebie is Geelong, which I think is really primed for growth in the Melbourne region. So I will leave it there. I am aware I've gone over time. Do get the questions coming through. Feel free to jump in personally on my email, jacob.field@ripehouse.com.au. I really do appreciate you dropping in tonight. I look forward to your thoughts about the new functionality. Can't wait to start rolling it out and getting you involved. And as Ripehouse current to Ripehouse subscribers, you'll be invited first to get started. So thank you once again, and I hope you found tonight interesting and insightful.